Alright, so today we're going to be checking out Stormlancers. This is a brand new action roguelike that's just landed on Switch. Now I've been playing it on Switch 2 through backwards compatibility, and this video it was kindly sponsored by the team behind the game. Now in this one I'm going to be diving into really what it's all about, so how it plays, what makes it a little different, and why it's worth a look if you're into the genre. Now if you do enjoy coverage then of new Switch and Switch 2 releases, from hidden indies to big performance reviews, make sure to hit subscribe because I've got new content here near daily. So the story kicks off when you and your friend crash land on an alien planet that's hiding a secret source of powerful magic. Now the stakes, to be fair, they couldn't be higher. Reality itself is on the verge of collapse, and that's when these two magical creatures, they step in. They're choosing you as their heroes, and your task is to help them save their friends that are scattered across this world. But those rescues, they aren't just about the story, because each friend here imbues you with new powers. Now that's honestly it for initial story, but I think it's more than enough for you to go to war. And I think the first thing we need to address is how this game is built, and that is the big focus here is on the idea of it being couch co-op. Now I played in single player, but you can immediately see the advantage of it. You know, maybe one player can focus on ranged attacks while the other dives into melee, or you can maybe split roles between mobility and heavy damage. It feels like it could really click with two players coordinating. In single player though, it's a roguelite, so it's still that addictive loop of run, die, repeat. The only warning, it's going to be a tad more difficult when you're solo. But what is the core loop here? Well, it's not going to surprise genre fans. The concept is simple. Start at the beginning, move through varying biomes, unlock temporary and permanent upgrades, and yeah, repeat. It's the tried and tested formula that's been massive in popularity now for a good few years. So how is the combat in all of this, kind of the core element of the experience? Well, you get two weapons, a melee and a ranged ability. Now as you progress, you're going to unlock more. A favourite of mine was a whip with poison effects and an assault rifle for fast ranged damage. Do be warned though, ranged attacks have a cooldown timer. Basically you can't go full contra because yeah, trade doesn't work. What I really like though is how weapon variety it pushes you to adapt. You know, even within melee weapons, the sword weights themselves feel distinct. It's not just more damage, they feel different. You know, a lightweight blade, it gives you really quick follow-ups. A heavier one might pack tons of damage, but it's at the cost of speed. Finding what suits your style, that's part of the fun. And these weapons then, and things such as health potions, they are often found in the world in crates. However, do not think you can just grab anything you want. They require you to defeat enemies because they come at a cost. There's basically a payment for each one you open, and you don't know what's in there. So this is a temporary currency. It resets to 0 on death. However, like all good entries, there is a permanent currency too. This is rewarded for larger moments and boss encounters, and these, in the early moments, they unlock things such as expanding your health meter, getting weapon drops immediately, or adding buffers. The most rewarding element, however, it comes from the creatures you're saving. These, at least in the early moments, they impact your movement. The first two gave me a slide ability and a double jump, which is desperately needed because your vertical movement here, it is severely lacking. And that's really it kind of for the core movement and the abilities. But yeah, this game then is really all about mastering these mechanics, and there's a few things you're going to need to get used to. Movement and attacks have that kind of cinematic vibe, meaning they've got longer animations and wind up. Your attacks never instant, so you need to time them carefully. Enemies are the same, and honestly, I really like how over the top their animations are. You can read when they're about to strike, you can see the tell in their posture or maybe the glow before an attack, and it gives combat a very strong rhythm rather than just, you know, button mashing. And the worlds themselves where all of this action's taking place, very clearly Metroidvania influenced. Lots of areas to explore, lots of dead ends, albeit with rewards often found there, and sometimes you'll want to just speed through a location. For me, I did that because I wanted to learn a boss's attack pattern, so I just kind of sped to them. Other times, I'd take my time. I'd be leveling up on the journey because this was, let's call it a real run. So I wanted to be as prepared as possible. And each world or level, it is a different biome too. So far, I've faced off against 4. I've tackled 3 bosses. It's been everything from caves to deserts to technologically advanced bases. And with each, you can expect new enemies with different attacks, from those that poison to military-like turrets, to a particularly awkward fella that blasts you with fire. Bosses are also thematically very different. The first starts as a big old worm that transforms into a sizable creature, another through bombs, and so on. They typically come right after you inherit a new ability, and they're very clearly designed to drive you to, master that new skill. Aside from that then, it really is the roguelike formula. Master the mechanics by dying a lot. And the big selling point again for many will be the local co-op functionality. There's not too many I can name that have chased that angle, so if you have 2 skilled players in one household, could be an especially good shout. My wife unfortunately doesn't play games, so sadly I was left to this gauntlet solo. But with progression, I can see already there's a lot of upgrades to unlock. There's more playable characters to see, and while the story hasn't given too much away just yet, there's clearly more to come, like characters in Cryo. All of this though, gameplay, that kind of summarizes it with a bow on top. The highlight of the game though for me, it has to be the general style of the animation, that design. I was born in '86 and this very much feels like the cartoons I grew up on, a very clean style that goes for colourful over detailed. Think an 80s or 90s vibe. And that goes down to the actual designs as well. It all looks really just lovely. The environment's packed with a nice amount of variety. And as I mentioned, lots of different locations. And with the biomes switching so quickly, it kept me locked in. It made me want to explore them. And bosses, yes, they are large, but one thing I really did like was they mix it up in relation to perspective. One was pulled back. It was designed to test your platforming with multiple areas you could jump to. Another was a single brute with kind of a closer camera to test you in, close quarters. I really think the general designs in that way are winners. Audio then, we don't really need to go into too much detail. It's exactly what you would expect. Effects match the actions on screen and enemies ahead, while the music very much captures the visual style that they've gone for. It's catchy, but it's not annoying, because remember, this game is gonna have you replaying sections over and over and over again, so it's a very careful balance. What did stand out to me though was audio cues, extremely important in a game like this. With ranged attacks tied to cooldowns, for example, sometimes you'll hit the button, nothing happens. The sound, it gives you instant feedback. It lets you know when you can fire again without dragging your eyes off the action. Those are small touches, but they make the combat easier. And that's Stormlancers. I played it on Switch 2, as I said, and performance has been solid. No noticeable frame rate issues. It's running at 30 FPS. It's capped there, no doubt due to the Switch 1. And yeah, it's a roguelike that's a little different, and that's thanks to that co-op gameplay element. I'd love to see online functionality transparently added, just so folks like me that maybe don't have the household to support the format could jump into. But again, it works just as well in single player. I think the thing many will need to adapt to though with this one, as I said, is going to be the longer animations. It's definitely a learning curve, and weapon choice will be a big factor too. One thing I noticed, I'll take speed in this world over damage output any day. I found a beast of a sword that delivered fire damage, kind of very like Cloud Final Fantasy. This thing was huge. So yeah, I looked the part for sure. But I just couldn't bear that delivery speed. Instead, I leaned on faster combos and that invincible slide. And yeah, that's the roguelike vibe right there. Play it, learn how it all works, find what setup you enjoy, and push through the gauntlet. So yeah, for me, Stormlancers sits in that sweet spot where it isn't trying to reinvent roguelites, but it does just enough different, that co-op angle, the cartoon-inspired visuals, the mix of temporary and permanent upgrades. There's definitely some creativity in there. I think it makes it stand out. So if you're a fan of the genre, there's definitely going to be a lot to dig into. Alright, if you did enjoy this video, do me a favor, subscribe again. Thank you to the developers and publishers for sponsoring this video. It means a huge amount. And I'll see you on the next video. Cheers all.